Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Ark, where we learn about the people that make up Holy Trinity Cathedral. Hope you all are doing well. We've got a really fantastic guest today. You know, when you think about the church and the life of a community such as Holy Trinity, it's rare to be a member and to experience 4 generations of one's family within the life of the church. And so today's guest is one of those rare opportunities where we get to learn from someone who gets to have 4 generations of their family celebrating and worshiping in Holy Trinity. And so with that, I'm so fortunate to welcome our guest for today, Miss Georgia Andrews. Georgia, thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you for having me, John.
So let's begin by talking about your childhood and your upbringing and what that was like, where it took place, and how the faith was a part of that.
Okay, well, I was born in Greece, in Lamia. My mother was from Karpinisi, my father was from Kefalonia, the island. We came to the United States in 1955 when I was 4 years old. We did go to church in Greece, St. Demetrius in Karpinisi, my mother went to. When we came here, we moved to Asheville. Actually, I lived in Hendersonville until I was 14, but Asheville did not have a church at the time, and the service was held in a building. And I remember my mother being so excited to go for the first time to a service here when she got to the United States. And she said to her it was such a disappointment. I mean, she was glad to go to church, but it wasn't a church, it was a building, and they were collecting money. And being that we had just come from Greece, my mother said to my father, let's work hard and give whatever we can to establish this church in Asheville. So the church finally, the community finally had enough funds to build a building. It was also Holy Trinity Church in Asheville. Our first for a while, we only had a priest on about twice a month. On Sundays, we shared a priest with Spartanburg, South Carolina. Our first full-time priest was Father Spirakis. We went to Sunday school, we went to Greek school. Being that I lived in Hendersonville at the time, Greek school was Father Spirakis would come to Mountain Home, North Carolina, where Father Tommy Pistolas from Greenville is, who is my cousin. We would have Greek school at his parents' restaurant. And when the church finally was established and we had a building there, we would drive to Asheville to go to church. We went to Sunday school on Sundays and Greek school 2 times a week. My mother, Saturday was a day that we cleaned the house and we prepared to go to church. Church was just something we had to do every Sunday. And anytime there was a service, we went to church.
That's beautiful. And I'm sure it was a unique experience where you were living in a place where there wasn't, like you said, there wasn't a sanctuary per se, and you were worshiping in a temporary home. And how inspirational is it that, you know, your parents had this thought that what we are given, we're going to give to the church, obviously for us, but for generations in the future. And that's a beautiful thing. So I take it you had siblings, and
no, I'm an only child.
You're an only child.
An only child.
So how was that, you know, being raised in a household without siblings, with what it seemed like were 2 very faithful parents?
Okay, my parents were very faithful. Even though I was an only child, both of my parents worked. They owned a restaurant with my mother's sisters and their husbands. So my grandmother raised 5 boys and myself. We stayed at my yaya and papu's house while our parents worked. So even though I was an only child, I grew up with 5 boys. Now, I was the ringleader with those 5 boys. I was the oldest, and I always, took care of them, but I always told them what to do and what not to do. But, one thing I always regret in my life is not having a sibling. I mean, I see other people that have something to share with, but because of my cousins, we had a very close connection. And even the other cousins that didn't live in Asheville with us, we still had close family ties.
Wonderful. So take us from how you get from Asheville to Charlotte. I know you take I-40, but how did you yourself get from Asheville to Charlotte?
Well, let's see. We lived in Hendersonville until I was 14. 14 till 22, I lived in Asheville. My uncle was going to visit his brother. My mother's sister and her husband there had family in Fayetteville, North Carolina. So they were having a church dance that night, and he wanted me to go. Well, my best friend was having her engagement party that weekend, and I didn't want to go. So but I felt bad for my uncle, so I went. Well, I met George Andrews there at a dance, and I was just sitting down, and these three guys came up, and they wanted to ask me to Greek dance with them. And we spoke for a while. Well, 3 days later, George calls me up, and my phone. He could not remember my last name. It was Evangelatus. But he remembered that I told him that our priest that we had in Asheville was now in Wilmington, Father Sparakis. So he calls Father Sparakis up to get my last name. So Father Sparakis gave him my phone number. He called me up, and he came up to see me and went out on a date. So about 5 months later, we were married, and George brought me to Charlotte in 1974.
I know there are so many people with great Father Sparakis stories. May his memory be eternal, but that's a story.
That is a story, yes.
And that's a pursuit by your husband, Mr.
Right, because when he called me, he says, "This is George Andrews," and my first thing I said, "Who?" Because I couldn't remember the names. Being that I'm a teacher, I'm bad with remembering people's names, but yes,
Sure.
It was, "Who are you?" And then when he told me, and I said, "Sure, come on up."
So you met, and then you said 5 months later?
5 months later. We met in May, and actually we were married in November.
Okay.
Maybe less than.
Can we unpack that? I mean, what was it about that meeting, and what was it about your husband?
Well, you know what? Just when I first met him, his personality. I mean, he was, very nice, very well-mannered young man. My parents liked him right away. It was just something. I know when we talked about, I know we thought we'd be engaged for a year, and my father kept saying, "Why are you letting this guy is working, you're about to finish with school, why are you having the poor guy come up here every weekend?" So I always wanted to be a June bride. Then we were going to get married after Easter. Then it was before the holidays. Next thing we know, we were married in November.
And you've been married for how long now?
46 years.
That's wonderful.
Believe it or not,
That's
46
wonderful.
years.
That's wonderful. Okay, so I mentioned before that you've got 4 generations of your family in the church. Can you talk about how it is having your mother still with you, and your daughters and granddaughters and
Right.
grandson?
All right, my mother, we moved my mother here 4 years ago. She was very involved in the church in Asheville. We moved her here after my dad, passed away. She came here. My mother loves to come to church every Sunday. To her, and she knows the liturgy by heart. I mean, she can chant along with the priest, and sometimes I tell her, "Mom, be quiet. You don't have a voice." So she'll chant along. My daughters were baptized here. They went to Sunday school here. They were involved in Goya. I will say my husband worked for First Union at the time, and then Wachovia, and he was always traveling, always was offered a job somewhere else to travel, to move to. Well, I didn't want to leave Charlotte because of what Charlotte, the Greek community, and Holy Trinity offered our daughters. We wanted to stay here. So poor George would leave to go to work out of town while we stayed here in Charlotte. Now Renee was married here. She's raising her 3 children here. They were at St. Nectarius for a while. Now they're back at Holy Trinity. The kids are involved in Goya and Sunday school, and hopefully they'll keep that up.
How is it for you to see that, dimension between having, a parent still here and her being able to see her great-grandchildren involved in the church, just like you were growing up, just like your daughters were growing up? How is it for you?
As a parent, it makes me feel happy that my children are involved in the church. My youngest one, not as much because she's busy with other things, but Renee, has taught Sunday school. It just, I don't know, you bring them up wanting to make sure that they want to be a part of the church, and you don't have to force them. Yes, they want to come. My youngest granddaughter told her mother the other day, she goes, "Well, we've been going to the 9:30 service. Can we go to the 8:30 service? Because some of my friends are going to that service instead." So that makes me feel great that she wants to go, because she's being forced. And my grandson is in the altar, and
Yeah.
he's enjoyed it.
That's
So it
beautiful.
does make me feel proud that my children are involved.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing. So, talk to us about the move from Asheville to Charlotte and how your, I guess then, boyfriend, fiance brought you to Charlotte and what it was like. Because I'm sure you knew some people
did.
here and you knew, obviously, people in the Greek community throughout the state. But what was it like moving here and becoming a part of this community,
This
Holy
community.
Trinity?
Okay, coming from a smaller community, we knew everyone. We were a small, close-knit community. When I first came here, I thought it was a very large community. I remember coming to church for the first couple of Sundays, and even though I knew people, I felt homesick because we would always go out to eat with my family, and we always ate at my grandmother's every Sunday, and I missed that. And when I came here, people had their families, and they would congregate together, and I felt like we were two only people. And we traveled. We would go one Sunday we would go back to Asheville. One Sunday we would go to Wilmington, and one Sunday we would stay in Charlotte until I got used to it. I was very homesick. So after a year, I decided I needed to grow up. You know, I'm 23 now. I needed to finally grow up and decide this is where my roots are. So I became involved in the church. I started teaching Sunday school. I joined Philoptochos. We also joined, back then we had Senior Goya. And I knew a lot of the Senior Goyans because they were in Goya with us. And George was involved with Senior Goya, so we had, you know, friends that way. Then the Senior Goya split, and we became the Married Couples League and maybe the Singles until they came up with the Young Adults. So we would play volleyball and go out occasionally with people. But coming here and becoming involved, I'm not a person to sit here and wait for somebody to come and say, hey, let me get you involved, because I know a lot of people came here. I remember Father C. asking me one time, why was it different for you? I didn't wait for people to include me. I forced myself on people and became involved, because when a community is this big, sometimes you have what they call your little groups, your little cliques. Unfortunately, that's part of life, and until you put forth an effort to include someone in there, it's hard. And not everybody can go out and become, you know, friends with or feel comfortable in a new situation.
So let's talk about that for a second, because that's one thing our last episode with Sarah Vassis we spoke about, because she herself moved to Charlotte when she was about your age, and she had moved from Tennessee. And for her, it was similar. She had to find her avenue on how she could become, you know, better acclimated with the community. So to someone who's, say, right out of college, a young professional, or even someone who's just married and find themselves living in Charlotte and they're coming to Holy Trinity, what's your advice if they're looking to get involved, if they're looking to find friends and, you know, plant their roots here at Holy Trinity? What would you say to them?
If you're a young adult, join the Young Adult League. If you can sing, join the choir. I mean, that's all it takes is teach Sunday school. Because I was a teacher, Elaine Michaels reached out to me. The first year I told her no, I didn't want to teach Sunday school because we were going back and forth. I was wanting to go visit Mom and Dad. So, but that's what it takes. You have to get involved. If you want to become involved, you have to find something that you enjoy and put your roots in there. And as you have children, you're going to become involved in Sunday school. You're going to become involved in Greek school if you choose your children to go to Greek school. They're going to play sports. You're going to make friends that way, but you have to, first of all, find something that you want to connect with and go with that.
Okay, so I know you are heavily involved with Philoptochos. For those viewers who don't know what Ladies Philoptochos is, can you give us an explanation?
Okay, Philoptochos, we always call it the right hand of the church. It's a ladies organization, and it includes girls from 18 till 100. You don't have to be married, you just have to be a female from 18 on. We help with the church. Whenever the church needs something, we are here. We raise funds to help the poor. We are fortunate here at Holy Trinity that we have a budget that we can afford to help the needy. If our parishioners need help, Father will say, you know, a family, no one knows who the family is, just basically the president and Father. They'll say if the family needs help, they help. We help in the community. We give, I think this year we gave over $8,500 to civic charities. I know they think philanthropist is just all about baking, but yes, we do bake, but all of our funds are given out. We have the Presbyterian Catherine Scholarship that was established by her family for a female, that's $5,000. But philanthropist is for every woman. I mean, we have meetings, we have outings, we have speakers, we go to church. It incorporates everything. So I think it's a wonderful experience for every philanthropist member, for every female member of Holy Trinity to be a member of. Now, I joined when I was 25, and my first meeting, I didn't realize was election time. So I became on the board right away. And before I knew it, I became treasurer. So that was a new experience for me. I became treasurer, but then I've been on the board now for 35 plus years. I've been president 3 times. I think I've done every position 3 times. So, but it really is a very worthwhile organization. I think it would be great for all females that are a Holy Trinity to become member of Philoptochus.
So given the current situation with the pandemic, how has Philoptochus stepped in different capacities with the coronavirus and its impact in the community, both at Holy Trinity and abroad? And maybe talk about some things you're doing right now in lieu of your normal, yearly activities.
Well, first of all, we did not have the festival this year. So those of you that know, when we help with the baking of the pastries, the parish council, the festival committee gives us $15,000. Because there wasn't a festival this year, we didn't have $15,000. So we always have a bake sale in November for the holidays. Well, we didn't think that was going to be a big success this year, and it was. We raised over $30,000, so that offset us with the $15,000. We have given to Loaves and Fishes. We've given to various organizations. We're giving to the Rice and Beans, which is an organization that feeds the homeless. We've given to National Philoptochus. We've given them money for the pandemic right now because people are starving. I think we've given over $1,000 to Second Harvest, Loaves and Fishes, and several of the other, and we also give money to the Dilworth Soup Kitchen. Because we can't do hands-on right now, we're trying to just give money where we can.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing, and I think when the onset of this pandemic really hit us, it caused us to think across the board about how we serve others,
right,
and ways in which we can serve others that, one, is allowed based on restrictions and whatnot and what's safe, but 2, based on what's the thing that's needful and what's needed in the community. And you touched on the amount of homeless people that we have in the Charlotte community, and so many organizations that are working to combat homelessness and this other issue we have of hungry children, right, in our community. So that's a beautiful thing. And then, of course, the amount of scholarships and endowments that you give, not only through the Presbyterian Catherine Scholarship, but I know Philoptochus has a history of also giving funds to our theological school, right, in Brookline, yes, which is a beautiful thing.
We have Philoptochus as national and metropolis obligations that we have to give to every year. We do have 6 trays a year that Philoptochus, and they go to the Holy Cross, Hellenic College, the Patriarchate, St. Basil's Academy in Jackson. So we have 6 trays, and this year, because we're not allowed to pass trays, we're taking it out of our treasury, and we're fortunate enough to be able to do that. One thing I forgot to mention, John, is a few years ago we partnered with Sedgefield Elementary School. They were a at-risk school because they had a lot of homeless children. So we would buy uniforms for them. We would buy Christmas presents. We would also have backpacks where they would take food home on weekends. When they were partnered with, I think, Dilworth School, they were not a Title I school. So the last 2 years we've been buying uniforms for Marie G. Davis. We've also given money to, I think it's one of the Myers Park churches. They have a backpack program, which is what we wanted to do, but because we couldn't establish it right now, we gave them the money to purchase the food. Because these children come to school, they have a free breakfast and free lunch, but yet when they go home on weekends, there is no food. So the backpack what they put food in their backpacks for them to carry them throughout the weekend. And of course, with the pandemic, you've seen the lines of people. They've lost their jobs, they're homeless, and all. There's a need for food right now.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing. And for those of you who aren't members of Philoptochos now, or maybe you were members and you haven't been as active as before, it's one of the best things you can do, because the impact that Philoptochos has, not just on our Holy Trinity community, but on the community at large within the Charlotte area, and really nationally through the efforts of both the metropolis Philoptochos and our national Philoptochos, is indescribable and truly unmeasurable. So what a great thing that we have in Philoptochos, especially during times like these.
And I will add that our metropolis president is Irene Politis, metropolis Philoptochos president is Irene Politis, so we're fortunate to have her in our community.
Yeah, a definite blessing.
And she helps us along with things that we need to know from the metropolis.
Yeah, of course, of course. So you have your daughters, and they're being raised in the church, and you've been a part of Holy Trinity for how long now?
Since I've been married, 46 years.
46 years. So now you have, your new generation with your grandchildren who are matriculating and a part of Goya and all of the different ministries here at the church. What's one thing now in 2021, aside from the pandemic, we'll put that aside for the moment, what's something now at Holy Trinity that you've noticed is a big change from maybe when you first started, besides the people? What do you think, has changed that sticks out in your mind?
What I like to see now is, what I've liked is the fact that the children can come to church before they go to Sunday school. When my children were growing up, because we had one church at the time, and they went to Sunday school while the parents came to church, they only experienced church, with their Sunday school class, maybe 3 times a year. That I like the fact that they can come as a family to worship, and then they can go to Sunday school afterwards. And I'm so glad that that is happening now, because I think the children get more out of that. When I taught Sunday school, we had them for 2.5 hours. A child, they go to school 5 days a week. We had an excellent Sunday school program, yes, but you lose a child after an hour. So I think the fact that they can come to church with their families, pray together, and then go to Sunday school, I think is wonderful.
I remember as a kid I would come into church for just a minute or two. I would light my candle. I would sit with my mom and my sister for just a few minutes, just so I could be in church and at least embrace some of the liturgy. Right. And then we would be off to Sunday school until, liturgy was done and Mom came and picked us up.
And like I said, sometimes it was 2.5 hours, and that is long to keep a child's interest.
Yeah, and as much as I became close with those people in my Sunday school class, I really didn't develop a love of liturgy until I was in middle school and I was going to church and then Sunday school. Right. So it's a great point that you bring up. I want to ask, since we're talking about, religious education, talk about how you as a parent educated your daughters about the faith in your home, aside from what they learned at church.
Okay, well, we always discussed holidays. I mean, like we said, today is St. Basil's Day, and we would talk about what the saints did. We would always say this is a fasting day. We would discuss what the holidays were, the feast days, what they meant, what they stood for, and then they would always come home and tell us what they learned in Sunday school, and we would try to reinforce that and add to it.
That's beautiful, because I'm a firm believer that Christian formation really begins in the household. And so that's, I think, an important lesson to bring home what they learned from Sunday school to engage, so that the lessons learned in the classroom aren't just left in the classroom, and you can use them, throughout the day, throughout the week, throughout the year.
Right. John, can I add that as an educator, I taught 4-year-olds, and a lot of them did not go to church. And I always tell parents, children they need church. I don't care what religion you are. They need to, at a young age, to start believing in Christianity, going to church. Because if they don't have that stability, when they go off to college, you lose them. There's so many things out there that attract them that if you don't start at a young age, and more than half of my students did not go to church. Because I taught at a church kindergarten, we would talk about church. And a lot of them they didn't go to Sunday school. So I think children just need some form of religion when they are young as the background to what they're going to have later on as adults.
You bring up an interesting fact that we unfortunately have in our church, and that is that over 60% of our high school graduates go off to the workforce, go off to college, and they don't return to their faith. Not return to their parish, they don't return to their faith.
Right.
And here we are, you've got 3 grandchildren who are active in ministry and active in their faith here at the church. So, and you mentioned before the understanding that we can't force people because, Christ gave us free will so that we can choose to love him, we can choose to follow him. So what would you say to parents of high schoolers who they're getting ready to send their children off to the workforce, they're getting ready to send them off to colleges either this fall, in a year or two, and they're worried about, is my child still going to be active in their faith? What, as a parent and a grandparent, would you say to them?
Having gone through that with 2 daughters in college, yes, that was my biggest worry, is what's going to happen when they go off to college. Fortunately, both of mine went to UNCC, and there was the Orthodox Christian ministry at the time. Mm-hmm. But yet, they went through a period where church was not important to them until, they finished school a few years later. But as a parent, I'll talk about your religion. Send them off with an icon and say, if you're in Chapel Hill, wherever you are, there's a Greek church. You go to UNC Wilmington, there's a church there. Go to church. I used to tell mine, I don't want you to go every Sunday. At least once Sunday, maybe every 4 or 5 weeks. You can do that. I don't expect you to, but just tell parents, stay in touch with your children. Just stay on top of them. They're kids. They still need you. Just say, please, go to church occasionally. Or if there's like Easter, you go to church on Holy Friday, you go to church for Holy Unction, just go to church.
What does the church mean to you?
What does the church mean to me, John? Well, the church to me means it's my home. I love church. It means I'm speechless right now. I can't find the word. Church means so much to me that I don't know where to begin. I love our church. I love the fact that I grew up at Holy Trinity in Asheville, and I came to Holy Trinity Cathedral in Charlotte, still stay with the Holy Trinity, but church is everything to me. I think it's so important because if you don't have this stability, in times of need, we all want to pray. And I've had some rough things in my life, and God, Panayia, Christ have all been there for me. What can I say? I mean, church is everything to me.
Yeah, thank God.
And I'm proud to say that.
Thank God. So, remind me, you've been, how many years at Holy Trinity? I know you said before. How many years have you been at Holy Trinity, this Holy Trinity?
Oh, 46 years.
46 years. So, I know one thing that you and I have worked on recently is something really exciting, a big milestone in the life of our cathedral, and that's our Centennial Celebration,
yes,
which is going to be occurring in
Soon.
2023,
Right.
2 years away, but of course we're going to have a year's worth of celebrations leading up to that anniversary in 2023. So for those of you who don't know, Georgia is one of our chairs of the committee for our Centennial Celebration, along with her husband and Mr. Cavaleris. So talk to us about this committee that has been formed for a few years now,
3 years, yes.
the work that the committee is doing, and give people a preview of what those celebrations are going to be, because we, as public, we really haven't spoken
Right,
a lot,
we haven't yet.
might
no.
as well kick it off now.
This committee started about 2 years ago, and I will say myself, my husband George, and Harry Cavaleris are the chairs, but we also have a wonderful committee consisting of Afrula and John Cushell, Frank and Dimitra Boardman, John Shelton, Lucy Papadakis, Elaine Fagan. I don't think I left anyone else out.
And Jerry Clanaris.
Jerry Clanaris, yes, sorry, Jerry. Yes, Jerry Clanaris. We've been meeting now about once a month for about a year and a half. We are planning our Centennial Celebration. Now, there are a lot of things we want to do. I don't know. We're going to kick it off with Festival 2022 and have a year-long celebration and end up with a grand banquet on September 23rd, 2023. Now, a lot of things that we want to do, we're not sure with the pandemic still, around, will we be able to do that? Will we be able to do these financially? But we want to have an activity, we try to every month. We wanted to have Sunday school involved, Greek school, HDF, the different organizations. So our goal is to plan something every month. Some that we may have to pay for. We wanted to have a concert. Some will be free for us to enjoy. But the climax will be our grand banquet on September 23rd, 2023. Once we finalize our calendar, we will publicize it and give it to our friends. And also trying to include more and more people. We have subcommittees now, and as we are meeting, we're adding more and more people to our committee. We have the archive committee that will do a history of our church. We have the commemorative album committee. We're looking for a fundraising committee, so that is open right now. If anyone would like to volunteer, we will be calling people for different things. It's just this committee has been meeting just to kind of come up with a plan and then expand. We want to get as many people involved. So if any of you hear this and you want to be involved in our committee, please do call us. Also, John Shelton will be doing our service projects for this committee. Not only do we want to have fun things, we also want to do some kind of service for our community to say thank you, Charlotte, for what they have done for us this past few years, 100 years.
When we think about the life of a church like ours, it's not every day that we get to celebrate 100 years of ministry here in Charlotte. So for those in our community, whether they've been here 46 years or they've been here 4 years, what should they be looking forward to as we prepare to celebrate 100 years?
Well, they should be looking forward to, well, first of all, we'll hand out the information. We'll have the kickoff, like I said, with Festival 2022. I don't want to say what we're going to be doing now, John. It's kind of,
fair, of course.
It's just not, but I mean, just look, once we're working on a budget, once we have all these things in place, we will announce it hopefully a year early so people can be excited and be prepared.
When you think about the last 46 years that you've been here at Holy Trinity, what are some of your most memorable memories or events that have happened here at the cathedral?
I think one of the most memorable things for me was when Father C started Follow Our Savior classes on Wednesday night. It was for the family to come. There were different, and I remember my children looking forward to coming every Wednesday night. Of course, when they were teenagers, they all were here with their friends. I've liked that. I like the fact that the community has grown. We are a diverse community. We have people from Greece. We have I don't want to say interfaith. Yes, we do have interfaith marriages, yes. We have people that have moved here. It's just, it has changed so much in 46 years. I don't know what to say. And I think with Father Vasilios coming on, he is so strong in what he wants. He's done a lot of good for Holy Trinity. And today I saw Father Michael was here. We had him for 10 years. We've had some wonderful priests here in the times that I've been here.
So, if someone were to ask you, as one who is very involved in this community, why it's so important to serve and to serve others, what would your answer be?
It's important. I'd like to make people feel welcome here. It's important to me when somebody comes to church that they're not alone. I've been on the welcome committee for several years now, and sometimes people will come to church and we haven't seen them, and I stopped doing this because I would go up and say, "Are you new to Charlotte?" And they say, "No, we live in Charlotte, but we don't come to church that often." So I felt bad for, but I'd like to be here to serve, to do whatever I can. We're on the Stewardship Committee, by the way. We would love to have some new members on the Stewardship Committee. And our church right now, because we haven't had a festival, we are hurting.
So you bring up a really great term, and that is stewardship. Talk to us about what stewardship means to you. We hear time, talent, treasures.
Right.
But in our predicament as a church with a very large festival, with a very large community, what are ways that people can offer stewardship just besides their dollars, which are very important, especially in times like this, but how can people be good stewards here?
Right. As John said, stewardship is not just about money. It's giving your time. Join the choir if you have that talent. Teach Sunday school. Anything you can do to your church. Maybe you don't have the means to give an X amount of money to the church, but just giving your time. Or if you're talented in something, coach the children in basketball, soccer. Anything you can do, that's part of your stewardship. It's not just financial aspect of it. It is what we can do with our time and our treasures, our talents, not our treasures.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when we listen to the gospel today and we hear about, the master telling his servants to, take these talents and to, do good things with them, I think it's so important that, and this was actually what I was telling my Sunday school kids today, is that the gifts that we've been given by God, we have to, multiply them and do good things with them so that at the time, on that day of judgment, when he asks us, okay, what have you done with that which I've given you? Then we can say, and I've done this and this and this, and I've taken what you've given me, and I've done good things with them, and I've multiplied them so that it's not I who am, being praised, but it's you. So I think it's so important that we understand really what stewardship is. And of course, money is important because of how the church operates here.
Right, our church. I mean, we aren't supported by the state as they are in Greece. So we do need to give now. A lot of my American friends, they give a percentage of their salary to their church. We don't do that here. I mean, I don't know why, but we do not. And I think it would be nice to get back to say, if I make an X amount, why not give 10% of my salary? Right. I mean, if you don't go out to eat lunch or dinner a couple of a month, you can give a percentage of your of that. You can save that money to give towards your church. Because if we want the church, and we want to keep the lights on and pay our bills, we need to pay our stewardship.
Absolutely. And if you can spare one meal, I promise you, Georgia will cook for you. And she's a fantastic cook, might I say.
Thank you, John.
So, okay, we're going to be celebrating 100 years. And not to sound too negative, but we probably won't be here for another big milestone.
We probably won't.
Where do you see the church, both Holy Trinity and maybe the church in America, where do you see the church going in the next 50 years? You've been here at Holy Trinity almost 50 years. So where do you see the cathedral going in another 50?
Well, I hope the cathedral stays the way it is, but I kind of think will we be losing the Greek language? Will we be going to all English? I've wondered that. Will they allow, I mean, I know we go back to the apostles, but will we change to allow women to be, I mean, I don't think so, but I'm just wondering, as times change, will we do that? That's always been the back of my mind too, is where will the church be? How will we change? Will we accommodate? There's so much negativity out there, so much anti-Christianity out there. I'm hoping it does not affect us. We've been here for how many thousands of years? I think we'll still stay strong with our traditions. I hope so. Even the church in America. I know the big controversy is communion. I mean, a lot of people, say, "Oh, you Greeks." I've never worried about taking communion from a spoon. I've never questioned it.
Yeah. I'm sure a lot of the social issues that the church faces now
Right.
probably weren't on your mind
No,
46
no,
years ago.
No, they weren't. So that's
Yeah.
what I'm saying. I don't know. Will things like that change? I don't. I do know that as growing up, I was in the choir, but I always wanted to be an altar girl. I said, why can't girls? I mean, I understand,
Sure,
but still, I wanted to be an altar girl.
sure. So, what do you hope for Holy Trinity? As we celebrate our centennial, what do you hope for here at 600 East Boulevard? Where do you see the church going? Not going, the church is not going anywhere.
It's not going anywhere.
No, let me rephrase that. Where do you see the community growing?
I see the community growing. I think there's a need for more buildings behind us. I think it would be nice to have a banquet facility, a gym separate. There are more families. My biggest thing is there's a need. Will we still be bilingual also? I don't know. I mean, will we be bilingual in a few years?
I don't have that.
I mean, so we don't know. And I'm thinking, all right, we celebrate the 100th centennial now. Well, 25 years later, we'll have 125 years, then 150. I don't know what the changes will be. I mean, I don't like change, and I'll admit that. I like things the way they are, but, you know, will we change? I hope not.
I think it always shows a lot about a community that can stand the test of time when you celebrate 100 years.
Right.
When a community, a Christian, a faith-based community, celebrates 100 years, especially, you know, in America where things are definitely different with regards to faith and Christianity than, say, you know, Greece or these other Orthodox-based
And we have to
countries.
give thanks to the people that started our churches that we're holding church service in buildings. Look where we are now. This was the Jones house that they bought. They were on South, and look where we are now. What can I say? I mean, look at this beautiful cathedral.
So I'd like to think that if they thought back in 1923, what in the world is this church and this community going to look like in 2023? You know, maybe we're biased, but I think they'd be proud of the work that we've done.
They would be. It's a beautiful. I mean, we've added on, but we haven't destroyed the beauty of this church. I mean, it's a beautiful cathedral.
And we are a growing community of people who love one another, and I think even more so love and try to serve the people outside of this building. And, you know, to thank the people in the Charlotte community who have truly embraced us and loved us and have been there for us and have been our neighbors for, you know, at least here for the last, you know, 50, 60 years. And the last 100 years.
Well, I remember first moving here, we always wondered, you know, Dilworth was not what it was then. We thought, is it going to be Ghettoville? But look at it now. I mean, we're in Dilworth. Dilworth is historic. So it's a wonderful area. We're fortunate to be part of the Dilworth Historic Association.
Right. And for those who might be watching who are in the Dilworth area, we have things planned to where we will celebrate our relation with this historic neighborhood coming up during our Centennial Celebration, because it really is a blessing to be in this neighborhood. And not only is it a blessing to be in this neighborhood, but the people in this neighborhood have been a blessing to us.
They have, yes.
And I know I can just think of stories I'm sure you have of how this community and the Dilworth community have worked together. You mentioned our partnership with the Dilworth Soup Kitchen, and that goes on and on.
A year ago, Christmas 2020 or 2019, we had the
2019,
choirs
yep.
come from the church. That was wonderful. Maybe we can expand it even more next time. And I think that's a wonderful thing to include other churches to come sing with ours for the Christmas. That is wonderful.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's, you know, they say it takes a village to raise a person.
Yes.
It takes a neighborhood to truly
To
love and
love a
support a church. Absolutely.
And we also have to thank the Duluth community for putting up with us 4 days during the festival every September, as noisy as we get.
That is true.
They've
But
put up with us.
you know, when you think about that and think about, I don't want to say disturbance, but it's definitely
It is.
I mean,
can you imagine having your house for 4 days right here with all the noise and everything that goes on? But they've been good sports about it.
And I know they have, because for those who can remember when we were able to walk around the church on Good Friday during Holy Week, it always strikes a chord in my heart when I see the people, at least on the surrounding streets in their houses, they're camped up on their porches to watch us,
Yes.
to be a part of that.
That's one thing that's always stood out on my mind too, John. I do love to see the people out there looking, and I'm so proud that I am Orthodox. I'll add one more thing I want to say is when my girls were growing up, they said, I am so proud to be Greek and so proud to be Orthodox, because they saw what our church has to offer versus what their friends' churches had to offer. Not saying that our religion is better, it's just what is offered right here at 600 East Boulevard for our all ages, from hope and joy to all the way up to we have the senior group, the seniors Forever Young, that meet once a month.
Absolutely.
So there's something for everyone here at Holy Trinity.
There is. I think that's the
so
beautiful thing.
you can't say you can't get involved. There's a lot. They're all ages.
Regardless of if you're 5 or 105.
105, that's right.
Georgia, my last question. Being at Holy Trinity 46 years, as we've mentioned, what is one thing that you are thankful for here at Holy Trinity?
The one thing I'm thankful for, not the one thing, one of the most important things that I'm thankful for is the friendships that I've made in this church. My friends that I've made when I came here, I felt lonely. The friendships that I've made, and also what our church offers. I mean, I can't say enough about what our church has done for me here. I just feel at home here. The friends I've had here, my family's here. What more can I say? I'm just thankful for everything we have. And John, I remember you as a young boy too, at Riceville Beach.
Oh, and I think that's a great place to end the show. Georgia, we thank you for what you have offered to this community. I know there will be many opportunities as we celebrate 100 years to also thank the people who make Holy Trinity what it is, and you and George are two people who have definitely left your mark here, and I know you are going to continue to do great work, so thank you for what you have done for our community.
Thank you, John, but there are a lot of better people than me, so we have a lot of good people in this community, but thank you for that, John.
And we thank you for joining us on another episode of The Ark. Be sure to tune in next month as we feature another wonderful person and learn their stories here at Holy Trinity Cathedral. Until then, be well and be one with God. Thank you.